break now, and we're going to launch into our Iowa Food System Coalition priority teams updates. So these are our, on the ground working groups that are supporting initiatives and they're already moving forward and enacting what we've been talking about and drafting in our statewide food systems plan. So we're about to hear from some on the ground work and where they're at and how they're moving forward in coalition. So first up, our first priority team that we have to hear from is the Land and Resource Access team. Do we have a representative from this team who's prepared to share an update? We have a wonderful slide here. Let's see.
So I know Zach could not attend. I'm not sure if one of his other committee members or co-chairs are able to attend either.
Is anyone here on the Land and Resource Access working group priority team? It's a low pressure update situation if you are. All right, seeing no one, I'll do my best to just hit some highlights on this slide for us that I'll be reading through for the first time. So here we go. So it looks like they've been meeting, they just met actually on February 6th. And looks like PFI, Practical Farmers of Iowa, is launching as a partner as well to be a co-chair for this group. Most of our priority teams do have co-chairs. And, with this priority team really focused on understanding how do we increase land access and resource access for our food and farmers, food businesses and farmers. There's a lot of work being done on the ground and in these individual organizations. So I think, I'm excited to see from this group how they continue to work even more collaboratively together and how having regular communication and space for discussion can lift up, some of the organizations that are listed here. Sustainable Iowa Land Trust, Iowa Valley RC&D, looking at all of this funding that's coming into our state to support these initiatives, $2.5 million for land market and capital access. Harmony Farm receiving $1.5 million for climate smart commodities grant. So big things ahead. Global Greens and PFI partnering on 13 acres of organic land in Granger for more additional land access. So I feel like this is definitely already a big beginning for this group. Moving on to farm and food business development update. Do we have it looks like I have Jamie Fowler and Bob Ferguson as our two co-chairs listed for this group.
I am here today. Let me just get my notes here. So we have been meeting. I just wanted to acknowledge our team members. First of all, if you hear your name on this list and you don't currently want to be part of our team, please let me know. I know that some people have attended meetings and some haven't. And if you're on this call and you would like to be included, please let me know as well. So there's myself, Michael Inyon Lynch, Bob Ferguson. Jan has provided a ton of help writing our plans or our chapter, so I'm going to include her on this list too. Jonathan Lawrence, Lisa Bean, Gary Huber, Kayla Kother, Brandy Bryson, Alex Taylor, Joe Peisel. We have a new member named Jeff Topol. I'm sorry, Jeff, if I'm saying your last name incorrectly. And I don't want to forget about Deanne Johnson, who I know I heard on this call earlier today. So thank you, everybody. We have gone back and forth on our strategies, and I think we finally nailed what our strategies actually are down just in the last couple days. 3 principles really guided these strategy changes and strategy development. One being the idea of a food system cluster, which is similar to a food web. We've kind of worked on the vocabulary around what a food system cluster is. Gil Gillespie's done a ton of work on that. We want to build on the concept of value chain extending on input and output ends and making that circular. We want to address the ecosystem, including land and human-created physical infrastructure, input supplies, farms, upstream businesses that help in local food. So transporting, aggregation, processing, distribution, retail, anything like that is included in our food system cluster definition, and also waste processing. So let's see, Gil has written these notes for me and I'm trying to, you need to step in, Gil, go ahead. But the other principle guiding our strategies was we want to build from the bottom up. So harnessing the passions, visions, skills, and knowledge of people in their localities and making opportunities. Recognizing that we will have to be open to great variation inside of food system clusters and across them, both across different categories of food products. Oh, let me get this off my screen. And even within the same category, and also the need for technical and financial assistance support tailored to the needs of particular farms and food businesses. And lastly, and very importantly, is the concern about actual and potential participants from disadvantaged categories, so including low-income folks, BIPOC, and women, and how to best work with those and elevate those within our food system. So from this, from these important points that I just mentioned, we have developed 4 strategies. I can't see the Zoom screen, so I'm not sure how many of these I actually included on our slide. Like I said, we've been really working on this even last night. So strategy 1 is to develop a clear, implementable conception of food system clusters through identifying and analyzing successful cases and assessing the resources for implementing the concept in Iowa. Strategy 2, implement a program of developing local and regional food system clusters. And strategy 3, monitor the progress of these clusters. And strategy 4, identify and advocate for policy changes needed to advance local and regional food system clusters. We have gone back and forth on other strategies that we had written in our previous chapter, and we have updated these. We removed some of the arbitrary timelines that were in our previous chapter. We just wanted to make this something that is obtainable with steps in place to deliver on these strategies. So that's where we're at. Our team has a meeting coming up next week, next Tuesday, and I hope to see all of our team members there. And like I said, if you would like to be included in our email list, please let me know. And if I said your name and you don't want to be on our team, please let me know that too. Thank you.
Great. Anything else from anyone on that team to add? We want to keep these fairly brief, but we have a little extra time since we're running early. I'll just throw out too that if I could have priority team leaders share out their email both in the chat and then both for Megan to put in the notes so that people know who to contact to start joining meetings or potentially be like, please, I no longer have the capacity or I have a different job or whatever transition might be happening that they are no longer able to participate. So that would be great. All right, moving ahead to farm and food system infrastructure. So I know Giselle is currently on a big trip, but I believe I saw Krista Hartstuck.
Yep, I'm here. Okay. Giselle would not let me tag along in her suitcase, which was really unfortunate. So I am here and happy to give a brief update. We have been working through our chapter edits. So today I just wanted to share our overall goal and the strategies and then let everyone know of our meeting in later February in case anyone would like to join us. So overall goal for our infrastructure chapter is that we will strengthen and increase capacity for local food infrastructure in Iowa to increase distribution and increase sales for local producers and processors. And then our strategies to do that, we have 4 of those as well, very similar to other teams. We will assess and develop integrated plans for food system infrastructure, including key areas of partnership and investment. We really want to look widespread, not develop anything necessarily new, but kind of assess what we have so that then we can move forward from that. Increase capacity for local and state processing of farmer-owned Iowa-grown products. I think that kind of speaks for itself, and we are thinking at all levels. 3 is increased distribution and storage infrastructure for the local food value chain. And then 4 is to develop policy priorities for investment in food system infrastructure. And then on that note, I wanted to share that our next meeting as a group is Wednesday, February 28th, and that is at 2. And if anybody is interested in that, please shoot myself or Kate Gilbert, I think is on this morning, or Giselle a note. We are meeting when Giselle is back. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Krista. Next up, we have local food purchasing and procurement.
Hi, that will be me covering that today. We have been meeting monthly, and one of the things that really stands out to us is how many people are on both this purchasing and procurement priority team and also the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Coalition's local procurement strategy team. So it's been causing a lot of double work, I think, for people. And to cut down on the number of meetings, we're wondering, we're looking at and discussing how we might actually combine those as one thing. So those are conversations that we've been having. And our focus really has been right now on supporting the policy work that's been happening during the legislative session. So those are the things we've been talking about. Yeah, that was brief, wasn't it?
That's all right. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things too, as we're continuing to do work in coalition and in community, like figuring out like, oh yeah, where is energy for this work already happening? How can we work better together in a way that is going to help be more efficient and not just have meetings for the sake of meetings, but have enough time to get to know one another and bring on new partners and move towards our collective goals.
Absolutely.
Great. Food, nutrition, and health update.
Hi, I'm Laura Paulson. I am a SNAP-Ed nutrition consultant with the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm stepping in for my colleague Jill Lang. So she is, I believe, the lead of this chapter team, but she asked for me to present on her behalf. So the Food, Nutrition, and Health chapter of the Iowa Food Plan, the goal that is identified is we will enhance and sustain the health and well-being of all Iowans by emphasizing the role of food systems in public health initiatives and focusing on policy change, incentives, and education initiatives. They are working on finalizing those strategies and evaluation metrics. There's 4 strategies, and it really aligns with the Iowa HEAL partnership, which is the Healthy Eating Active Living team. They convened on January 31st to kind of report out the report from the past year of strategic planning. And so kind of like Krista was saying with the other team is there's a lot of overlap in the initiatives. And so the HEAL team is serving as the Food and Nutrition and Health chapter for the Iowa Food System Plan. And so really the purpose of this team is to help achieve improved food and nutrition security for all Iowans using the PSC change strategies. And so that strategic plan is helping inform the goals and strategies of this plan as well. At that meeting, we revealed the strategic plan to the larger network. And it's really a partnership of several organizations and professionals across the state involved in this work. And that's really the goal, is to get as many voices at the table involved in these initiatives so we can really be cohesive and strategic as we move forward. We had almost 60 attend, but we know there's many out there. And so we always welcome more. If you hadn't heard of the team or would like to get involved, we will be meeting quarterly to move forward on these goals and formulating some working groups. So there's still an opportunity to get involved in this area if you would like, or if you know others connected to nutrition and health. Another element of the HEAL plan is really wanting to make sure that we're emphasizing the voices with lived experience in food insecurity. And so this spring we'll be working with our evaluation team on some focus groups of reaching at least 50 individuals with lived experience with food insecurity to help provide feedback on the goals and strategies and really guide those initiatives moving forward. And I believe I mentioned there are 5 goals of the strategic plan, and so there will be working groups formulated around those 5 initiatives so we can continue the work. So that is our update. And I can include Jill's contact if you'd like. I know I'll also be a part of the HEAL team helping coordinate those meetings, so I can include my email as well if you're interested in joining the HEAL team.
That would be great. And one more question, Laura, how is it possible to access the strategic plan you mentioned? Is there a website link or something where people could view what's being proposed for that group?
Yes, so the Department of Health and Human Services has been going through a big website rebranding kind of rehaul. And so I will double check to make sure that web link is working, but otherwise we could send that PDF document out to the group as well.
That would be great. And you're also welcome if you ever want to just raise awareness too. We have our regional food system working group email list. Just to, a great place to put events and also, strategic plans like this to help people be aware and potentially see if they have connection or could, have interest then in being more involved or how this might impact their work locally. So that is also a great place when you get to that point of wanting to send out, for wider awareness.
Great. And well, I guess it was a direct message, but yeah, if anybody has ideas or networks of where you're working with folks with lived experience in food insecurity and want to connect us with them for the focus groups, please reach out. I know that was one conversation is working with our partners to make sure that we are getting that word out and really being intentional to reach those audiences. So thanks, Luke, and we'll definitely follow up with you.
Great. All right, moving right along to labor equity.
Yeah, so I am helping with labor equity's priority team, and I also shared our goals and strategies. I feel like the last couple months have worked on these and felt pretty good about them. We're still working on writing our chapter and reviewing. So that's still in the works, but slowly but surely making progress on that. I did want to share, so with these strategies, we're focusing on like compensated job training programs and education, strong labor protections, livable wages and benefits. The full strategies call out more marginalized and disadvantaged groups to kind of highlight how that is an equitable process currently in the food system, but for the slide's sake, I shortened them. And then increase investments in all workforce positions, especially for food value chain coordinating and food service positions. And then our last strategy talks more about immigrant, migrant, and refugee labor justice reforms. And I should say this is all things that myself and Maria Torres had worked on with Jan's help as well in the last couple months. So shout out to Maria. And I also wanted to share about, I've mentioned in the last hour how I had applied for some grants. If awarded, one of them will help support Farm Worker and the Farm Worker Coalition, as well as the Labor Equity Priority Area, by helping connect the Migrant and Seasonal Farm Worker Coalition that's already meeting separately from this coalition, but really I think that it would be a good idea to try and support or figure out a way to connect the two coalitions, because there is so much overlap and a lot of resources on both sides that I think could leverage our work in a more collaborative and just more holistic way. And then we currently have monthly connection calls for folks interested in the labor equity priority area. I am gonna have to move them because I I had another meeting that's like reoccurring and scheduled over it, but if you're interested or know someone who is interested in attending those or just seeing what is out there, let me know and I can add them or you to the calendar invite, and I'll drop my email in the chat. And I think that's most of our updates, I believe. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, definitely great opportunity for more partners in that area. And I think, you know, some of the work that we're trying to do with taking a intersectional approach to our food systems planning and how we're thinking about how food systems are going to transform in this state for years to come. Definitely need to be thinking about that labor equity piece. All right, so the next slide is ecosystem resilience, and I don't know that I see Adam anymore.
No, he had to jump off early to teach. He said his only update is they're still working on their chapter. And I believe his group is pretty small. So if anybody is interested in joining that group, we can get his email in the chat too. And I know he would love some extra help.
And that group is, yeah, primarily focused on elements of stewardship and, you know, other environmental concerns with impacts of our food system. All right, communication and education.
All right, that is me. So myself and Paul McCormick are co-chairing this committee or a priority. I say committee, priority team because we did combine. So when we originally the Iowa Food System Coalition formed, we have a steering committee and we have committees underneath of that. And one of those committees was the communications committee. And we are also seeing a lot of things that were similar happening in each group, and then having to do a lot of communication outside of meetings and a lot of extra emailing. So we've combined our communication committee or subcommittee with our communication education priority team. There was already a lot happening in this priority team with this chapter. We feel like we cross over, and you've seen all the diagrams for Iowa Food System Coalition. So we cross over into many of the other priority teams. So that has been quite challenging for us in completing our chapter, but we are getting ready to do the very, very last final review as a priority team for our chapter. And next week, so things are moving along. We also have funding through Iowa Food System Coalition. We've had funding through the Kellogg Foundation, and now we have Builders Initiative funding. So we're working on making sure that we're using those funds correctly and our communication needs and getting contracts out and working with our consultant who's going to be helping us put together a communication plan for getting the word out about the plan. Gets to be kind of confusing and wordy in there of all the plans that we have. We meet the last Monday of every month and at 10:30, and we are really working on trying to be respectful of everybody's time, but we do have a lot to discuss every single time. So we're trying to figure out, you know, once a month, we don't think we can pull off more than that meeting, but do we need to extend those meeting times? So we're still playing around with what our schedule looks like. When we met in January, we reviewed our chapter as a group again. We'd had people working on the side, making lots of comments, but talked through that as a group. And then we've also started to work with Arlene. She's joined our meetings in terms of making sure that we have measurable objectives in that evaluation piece. In February, we're going to start talking about the possibility of writing an FMPP grant. The RFP for that has not been released, but we know that it will come out this spring. And we wanted to make sure that we mentioned this because there could be potentially other priority teams or other organizations on this call. And always love an opportunity to potentially collaborate to see how that could work together. We don't have official plans, but we're starting to talk through that and trying to be ahead of the game in terms of thinking through what would be the best use of a grant like that. Local food campaigns are something that we have really wanted to we have in our chapter. There's a lot of regional local food campaigns going on. Choose Iowa continues to strengthen their campaign every year. So we're gonna have a little bit of an overview at our next meeting, talking about a couple of different of the campaigns, specifically the Grow, Eat, Play area that we use in the Cedar Valley, as well as in the Mason Clear Lake area with Healthy Harvest of North Iowa. And then we're going to continue on with our evaluation with Arlene and making sure that we get started on having things that we want to measure. And that's really going to direct how our group tackles those priorities and action items.
Great. Thank you, Jody. And last but not least, Local Food Policy Network. Tommy or Luke?
Luke, let's tag team it.
Go, Tommy, you first.
Okay. Yeah, we're obviously in the middle of the 2024 legislative session now, so that gave us a good impetus to get up and start really getting going with our priority team. And so we have had some great events in the last couple of months for the Local Food Policy Network, and we had to very quickly figure out kind of what are our strategies and goals so that we could start acting this legislative session. And we're learning a lot, and we'll share a little bit about that here. But first, these are some pictures from our lobby day on January 25th. You can see a bigger group picture there on the left. We got the IFSC banner, and then here are some farmers from Global Greens speaking with a state representative, which was one of over 20 legislators that we met with on the 25th. You want to go to the next slide? So major things that we've been up to, we led an advocacy training series during the month of January that was leading up to our day on the Hill. This picture is a lot of folks who are on our priority team, as well as other folks from the coalition who are interested. Lots of great smiles there. I love to see a good Zoom selfie. And then that all led up to our Farm and Food Day on the Hill. We had about 40, a couple more attendees. We had really good lunch, and like I said, met with about 20 legislators. And we were able to kind of, with Arlene's help, we had a survey for participants to fill out, which tracked their prior experience with advocacy and how they thought the day on the Hill went, as well as specific information about their meetings with legislators. So, they wrote down each legislator that they met with, and then kind of some key takeaways from those conversations. And so that really gives us a good leg up in terms of knowing who are our legislative contacts that we can turn to moving forward. And I think we have, this year we kind of worked with 2 or 3 representatives primarily. And I think now after this lobby day, we're like, now we have maybe 15 or 20 that we can start including in our regular communications and counting to come out for us. Continuing our work with local food policy councils, there's a lot popping up around the state. And we've been continually reached out to by other state policy groups who are interested in food systems. So kind of growing our team. Please refer people to us. And then, just already starting to prepare for next year, because this year we were a little bit behind, I think. We got some language submitted for Farm to School in December, but that was too late. Bills that were submitted in December for drafting have still not hit the floor yet. And so we're going to be working to try and get something ready this summer and fall, and kind of hosting events around those things. Other things, just Day on the Hill and healthy school meals for all. Day on the Hill coming up, as well as the Farmers Union Lobby Day. So lots of opportunities to get out and come to the Hill and hang out with us. And Luke, is there anything to add, Luke or Ilsa?
I've got just a couple things. Our next priority team meeting is February 16 at 10:30. So if you would like, I think I have that right. That's according to my calendar. So please, Tommy or Ilsa, correct me if I'm wrong. If you'd like to be a part of that, feel free to reach out to one of us, and we'll get you kind of looped in for the team. And then I just wanted to say, like, hearing from the other groups and strategies and kind of multiple groups bringing up policy, like, I know like Tommy said, like we were kind of rushing and choosing items based on where kind of we identified as the greatest momentum and highest sort of need. But really hope over this summer that we can work with all of the priority teams to have some much more robust conversations around what are the policies that you'd really like to see us work on. And so that's something I know this summer that we'll be being much more intentional about and being able to have, I think, more in-depth conversations about these things. So I was just excited to see that from the other priority teams, and I'm already looking forward to how we, combine all of our efforts together to work towards change. So I'll drop my email in the chat, but thanks.
Yeah, there is 2 more slides real quick that kind of so like this was our day on the hill priorities. So like Luke said, we kind of threw it together based on what we thought were the biggest priorities this year. But we know that each priority area probably has things that should be on the sheet for next year. So let's be working together this spring and summer. You can always shoot us ideas. We want to get your policy priorities on this list for next session. And then one more slide. This is us having fun. We felt like we were a law firm, like taking a group photo in the library at the Capitol building. So, like an injury law firm. If you have any good local ideas, please call us at the Local Food Policy Network. And thank you, Chelsea, for the photographs.
We have fun in the policy team, so.
Yeah, I did.
But go ahead, Luke.
Sorry. I saw Teresa's comment being bummed about LFS funding. I don't want to completely give up hope. The bill language was submitted, but there's a huge backlog at LSA, and next week is first funnel. But because this would be an appropriation and we already have a fund that exists for local food for schools, there's a chance we could still get an appropriation for this in, because an appropriation's funnel proof. It needs to get tied to probably an agriculture or education bill. There's still a chance. I think probably not holding my breath, but there may still be an opportunity to get that LFS funding in if we really make it a priority with our legislators to know that's important. So.
Yeah, and I just want to add in one more note about that. I know earlier I was kind of a downer on the farm to school funding for this year. Representative Chad Ingalls was the lead legislator on submitting that language. He's very supportive of the program, but in his mind right now, he's also working on the rural grocers bill as well as double up food bucks, and I think he's seeing the constraints of money and appropriations. He's trying to add some language into the rural grocers bill about fruit and vegetable processing, which is something that he really values. And he talked with IDOLS, and he said that for whatever reason, IDOLS is not going to bat for the farm to school program right now. So that's kind of a little bit of, just transparency about where we're at in the process. Just being realistic. I'm not saying that to say that it can't happen this year, but if it is going to happen, it's going to take a very coordinated effort. And I think, every conversation that we have builds that power and momentum around it. So just keep the good advocacy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to lift up to Luke planting the seed for let's think about policy stuff now. and keep thinking about it. Just write a little note for each of the groups of like, what are some policy things, so that then this summer maybe we can gather that and start building that, having those discussions of what do we need to pull up to the front of our priorities for the coming session. So yeah, policy work happens all year round. All right, well, are there any questions? This concludes our priority team updates from the Iowa Food System Coalition. Since we have a few extra minutes, if there are any questions from anyone about any of the teams or how things are working with the priority teams and with the coalition generally. I do love sitting with a few moments of silence sometimes. But not hearing any takers. I think we're moving now into networking and discussion.
Yes, so really we have on the schedule till about 11:45 to go into breakout rooms, and no specific questions. I just want to use this little piece of networking. We know it's not the same as when we're in person, but do a little bit of networking, reflect on maybe what you heard from schools this morning, or possibly what you heard in the priority team updates, or even our RFSWG updates. So Megan, you'll put us into groups. So if you guys will all accept and stick around, we've got 30 minutes left. We'll do just a little bit of a wrap up of at the end after we give about 15 or so minutes in our groups.
I think that's everything. Everyone back from breakout rooms. Welcome back. I hate ending breakout rooms, so I'm apologizing. But I would love to hear just kind of overall how your breakout room went, what you talked about. We have about 10-ish minutes to go through and kind of share out what you all talked about. How would you all like to do that? Do you want to go by room or by volunteer?
Go by volunteer.
By volunteer, okay.
Well, I'm gonna, oh, I was frozen again. I'm gonna actually have Aaron talk. We talked about it in our group, but we need to make sure that Aaron announces before the meeting's over. So I'm gonna turn it over to him.
Well, one thing I wanted just to remind people, we are so excited that we are going to be bringing on in the Iowa Food System Coalition a new executive director, and that we are seeking applicants right now. So if you're interested in applying for that position, or if you know of someone who would play that role in a great way, send them to us, and Jody is gathering those applications as they come in. And Jody, I think you will put your email in the chat for us. And but ask any of the folks on the steering committee for how what that position is like, and for a description of that position, go to our website as well. So good information there. So we're really excited. It's a really fantastic new chapter for the Food System Coalition. We're building off the great work that everyone in this room has done, and that Jan Libby has played so well for us these past couple of years, and she's doing new and different things, and we'll be so grateful for her continued involvement, make this transition go well with us, and we'll tap into her expertise as well. But it's a new exciting chapter for us, so please send people to Jody and to that email in the chat. It's really going to be an exciting time. So thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, and I put the link to the job description and the full interview process is in the chat, as well as my email. So thank you, Aaron.
At the end of our breakout, we had just asked Zach to tell us a little bit more about the land they were looking for their program. Zach, would you fill us in? Okay, next.
I think one of the things, so Deanne and I were together, I thought was really neat in our discussion is that with the field to family, it popped up that it tied in a lot with each of the people in the discussion. We had those in the farmers and their perspective, those in the schools, and then Teresa, who had developed some of that education. And so it was really great to see those connections. Just to also let the group know as well in the work that you're doing, the state health improvement plan update is set to release here in around April. So this spring, that will have the strategies and objectives for this SHIP cycle. And so we hope that that can be a tool for you as you're, applying for grants and using it for data and information for your programs. So just, be looking, that'll be coming out here in April.
And I had apologies. I had started to answer your question, Deanne, but didn't realize I was still on mute. So silt, in terms of like the land that we look for, we're not super picky as long as it's farmable, and at least 10 acres is sort of our minimum requirement. Although we are We prefer more like 20, and we do allow some exceptions for that 10-acre rule. For example, if it's an urban farm, we've begun to accept exceptions just because you can still have a productive urban farm on 5 or 6 acres. And then, yeah, the main thing is just finding landowners who are interested in our easement process and who are interested in protecting their land, from development and for the future. So if you have any, neighbors or friends that are landowners and that are concerned with, what happens to their land after they go, or concerned with land access and sustainable farming, then please send them my way. I'd be happy to talk to anyone.
Any final thoughts this morning from any of your groups, or anything that you want to share out from your organization? I will add that our next meeting is May 9th, a Thursday again, probably very similar time frame from 9 to noon. Another virtual meeting. We hope to add in some in-person ones possibly in the future. Megan just put in the registration in there. Thank you, Megan. Not sure we have a formal evaluation today, but if anybody wants to send us feedback of how you thought it went, or any suggestions, we're meeting as a steering committee to talk about the next meeting over the next couple months. So we'd love to have feedback. So I'll put mine as well as our Iowa Food System Coalition in there again for any feedback anybody wants to send us.
And I know that we had quite a few people drop off throughout the meeting. It is a long meeting, so I'll talk with our steering committee about having maybe a little bit more formal of an evaluation, because this is a new meeting structure for us. And any and all feedback is greatly appreciated in how we plan these and what the flow looks like. If you hated how it went, we'd love to hear it. But thank you all for attending. And are there any last things to wrap up, Jody or rest of steering committee, or any last thoughts from folks still on the call?
Nothing here. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.